Hello, everyone. My name is Fabian Zimmer. I'm the Principal Product Manager for GitLab Geo, and I will walk you through our plans for GitLab 13.12, the upcoming GitLab release. Let me quickly share my screen. Here we go. Okay, it's a bit larger. Okay, so the first thing to note is that in 13. Or during 13.11, the Geo team helped out on a rapid action to improve the overall performance of our database queries, which meant that some of these items are going to carry over from 13.11 to 13.12, just because we had to shift priorities a little bit. So the first thing I want to talk about is Geopatroni support. So Patroni is a high availability template for Postgres databases, and it is the replacement in GitLab for Web Manager to provide high availability for databases. So you have more than one node, primary node, and several followers. So if the primary node fails, you can switch over to another node and continue your service without interruption. So right now, we don't support this functionality on Geo secondaries, which has implications for disaster recovery, because in the event of a failover, you will be able to perform this, but you would have to restore high availability manually afterwards. And so this is to improve that scenario where you have a standby cluster and you're able to run several Postgres nodes in high availability on your Geo secondary site. So we're hoping to ship beta in 13.11, but there are still some outstanding items that we hope to ship in 13.11, but there is very likely carryover, especially to do with some of the sort of reconfiguration and ensuring that the entire setup process is smooth for new users. If you're starting fresh and you don't actually have Patroni, but also for folks that are migrating from existing installations. So as I said, this may actually complete, but given the timing right now, I anticipate that the beta support will potentially slip into 13.12. After that, there's a lot of testing to be done to ensure that all of this works well at scale, which is the sort of the most important part of the work for general availability. We are also working on some other items. So for example, we are moving Geo to self-service framework to enable other groups in GitLab and in the wider GitLab community to ship features for Geo. And that's going really well. We had already 2 contributions to Geo, but we have data types, for example, LFS files that are in our legacy, let's say in the legacy state that need to be moved over to the self-service framework, which has performance improvements overall. It standardizes our code base, makes it easier to maintain. It will also make it easier to, for example, verify LFS files. So again, this is on the way. We are going to merge some changes here relatively soon, but we need some more time in 13.12 to test out all of these new functionalities, make sure it works, make sure that the migration from legacy to self-service framework works well. And then we may have the ability to actually verify LFS objects after that, which is quite exciting. I'll keep you posted on that one. Next up, we have some existing data that we already replicate. So for example, merge request diffs and Terraform state files, and they replicate happily using the self-service framework, but they're not currently verified. So we are currently working on that. Merge request diffs are a little bit more work than anticipated. So we are going to ship that very likely in 13.12. Terraform state files are still targeted to 13.11, but they may also only become available in 13.12. Next up, we already shipped a first iteration for snippet verification in 13.11, but there's still a few outstanding items to improve the overall user experience. For example, auto healing, where if we detect a verification mismatch, we are automatically scheduling all of the snippets for re-replication. So this is sort of the last few items that will really bring snippet verification up to sort of the standard that we have for other data types as well. And the next items, so this is all of this here is essentially improvements to how we replicate data, how we verify it, moving Geo to a better code base and making it more performant and easier to maintain, which in turn then increases the velocity and our ability to ship more exciting new features. So something that was scheduled originally for 13.11 but had to be pushed out due to different priorities is secondary mimicry. So this is the idea that the Geo secondary sites have a read-only web interface that is not able to actually allow users to submit any kind of writes through that web interface. The user experience of that is subpar, and so we are going to move to a model where essentially any request that a Geo secondary site receives should be able to be handled in a way by the site that improves the user experience, and otherwise we're going to proxy it back to the primary site. That will make the user experience overall pretty transparent, and will also allow systems administrators to hide secondary sites behind a unified global URL. So if you have, let's say customer.gitlab.com and you are in the United States, you will get to the primary in the United States. If you are, let's say, in Japan or in Germany, you would get to a secondary Geo site, but you wouldn't actually know that you're there. Things would just perform better, and you would benefit from the co-locality of the data. So quite excited about this. We're also going to make some improvements to our usage ping, hopefully being able to also measure how many push requests are going to be made to a secondary site to see that, and also improve the overall performance of Geo following that data. The implementation of the new Geo Node Page is also going well. There's a lot of work that is being done on this right now. This is how it's going to look. We're excited for it. We anticipate a little bit more work to polish this up and test it, but this is ongoing. Oops. Yeah, and then there are a couple of bug fixes and other improvements. So we are currently working on improving the backup size and the support for pool repositories. The reason for this is that Gitly, our service for handling Git data, is able to create pool repositories. So when you fork a repository, we don't have to re-replicate all the data. We can rely on a pool repository to hold most of the data, which is much more efficient. But our backups don't support pool repositories. So if you have many forks, you will create a very large backup. And then when you start restoring that backup, you will also use up a lot of storage. So we're trying to improve the situation here, which is quite involved and may also require a little bit of help from other teams. And that's it. There's a bunch of bugs and other documentation improvements. I'm looking forward to this one. As I said in the beginning of the video, we had to push out a few things. But yeah, excited for the release. Thanks for listening and have a great rest of your day.